I'm here with Joe Rotella, who is actually, you're inspired by yourself.
Well, I made this Kaleidoscope 30 years ago, but it's glass, and so to make one now, I need a full stained glass studio, a grinder, and the whole 9 yards. So I duplicated the whole thing using plastic, shrink plastic, film, and cardstock.
That's amazing. So, and you're gonna tell me that this is easy to do, I'm sure.
It's a breeze. Let's get started. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna give you some shrink plastic here.
Okay, and I'm gonna just, on the electronic cutter, I know you told me I need 2 hexagons, but there's only really room for 1 at the moment. So I'm just gonna add that. And then I know you want me to mark the center of the hexagon.
Absolutely,
with a little circle.
When we're all done, I'm gonna drill the center of it out so that the axis of the kaleidoscope can go through that point.
So I need to align these so that, I was gonna say we have to find that access point. So let me just align these. And then I'm going to group them. And then we are ready, I believe, to go ahead and begin. Now we're gonna be drawing that first because that's how the line is gonna be. So I'm just gonna put a pen into here.
And it has to be a permanent marker.
Right, I was gonna say, because drawing on shrink plastic, you need to make sure that you're using something that's gonna be okay.
Absolutely.
On that surface. So my pen is in. You have
There
the
you
shrink
go.
plastic for me. Everything looks fantastic. And I am just going to go ahead and press draw. And then that is gonna go, which makes it really super duper easy.
I have some that are already drawn, and I'm hoping you can help me color them in.
Well, you know I like coloring, so I'm on top of that 100%.
I'm gonna give you the doodly one then.
Okay, are there any rules about this? Like, are you using certain colors? Are you not putting 2 colors next to each other?
No, whatever makes you happy.
Okay, I'm just switching out the pen for the cutting blade, and I'm just gonna go ahead back and delete out that circle because I just want it to cut around. And now that's gonna cut out. And I get to do some doodling. So, are there any particular patterns? I notice you have a wide variety, but some of them you have repeated where other ones you haven't. Does that matter?
No, in this case, if you really look at this hexagon, it's really made up of a bunch of triangles that have 3 parts, a wide part, a middle part, and a little tip.
Okay.
And I just did, you could see the large one, the medium-sized one, and the little one here.
Are there patterns that don't work?
I think you just don't want it so full that between the 2 layers of kaleidoscope panels we're making that the light won't come through.
So you don't need this one. This was just an example.
We're gonna make that for the next one.
Oh, okay, for the one that you're giving to me?
Oh, I could do that. You've been nice. So let's go ahead and just fill in some doodles.
Okay.
I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees.
Okay, and you obviously just want to follow manufacturer instructions for whatever the temperature should be.
Absolutely.
You can tell that I'm getting fussy about this, and you're like, Julie, hurry up and doodle.
Hurry up, I want to see it shrink.
But
That's
doodling
the
is
fun
so
part.
much fun. Okay.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do, the oven should be nice and preheated. Let's go ahead and check.
I was just saying, touching a hot oven to see if it's ready
okay.
doesn't strike
I didn't put my
me.
hand in it. So you never want shrink plastic to touch metal because when it shrinks, it'll adhere. So I put a layer of parchment paper, then my plastic piece is on top, then another layer of parchment. That'll prevent it from curling up on itself. That works well with a small piece, but with a piece as large as this one, I kind of want a little extra keeping it down, so I just put a little sheet on top. So we're gonna put it in, and I've tested this at home, and I know about 3 minutes is right. So I'm gonna set a 3-minute timer on my phone.
Just like obviously we only cut one of them, we would cut 2, we're gonna shrink 2, even though just now we only are shrinking 1 at a time.
Absolutely. So the next thing we need to do is come up with the base of the kaleidoscope. So I'm using a heavy chipboard.
Okay.
And then I've got a metallic foil to be the mirrors on the inside.
Now, could you use a cereal box or something, or would that not be sturdy enough for this?
You could, but then I would do 2 layers of it.
Okay.
I'd adhere one to another just to make it a little extra thick. So I'm gonna go ahead and I've got a film here that I can use as an adhesive.
So it's just a double-sided adhesive.
Yep. And I like this because it's for sure gonna give me 100% coverage.
As
You know what
opposed
I
to
mean?
glue, which I'm a bad gluer sometimes, or a lazy gluer, and then parts of
miss
it are
a
stuck
spot.
together, parts of it are not stuck together.
Now, the challenge I always have without a fingernail.
I was gonna say, is getting that off. Well, you know, let me see if we can't do this in teamwork. Oh, I got it. I got it for you,
beat me.
man.
So you take that off. We'll put the foil on top.
Okay.
And this doesn't have to be perfect because the next step is to cut the
So this
three
is just a
sides.
foil paper. It's not like it's tin foil or
No,
anything.
it's a foil paper.
Okay.
Yeah. Very reflective. Like,
I was
oh,
gonna
you
say,
look
it's
great.
a mirror surface. I'll do my hair next time.
So we can go ahead and cut 3 panels. I have 3 panels already done. Now the thing is to glue these together and make that triangle shape.
And how are you determining the size of these panels?
Well, I just explored how big the Kaleidoscope front end could be and what would look good in proportion. Just play. There's no right or wrong.
Okay, and the pattern, of course, will be on
the
our website.
Now, putting these 3 together is a little fiddly.
Well, you have a friend. I can help you.
You have a friend, but in case you're not there, in case you abandon me, I cut some chipboard pieces that actually work as
I think you want the mirror
holder.
on the inside on that bottom piece.
I do this all the time. Do you know how many I put together with the
I was
mirror
gonna say,
on
you
the
know,
outside?
I actually grew up in a house full of kaleidoscopes. My dad was a kaleidoscope collector, so I do remember seeing those mirrors inside, and this is a really ingenious way to not have to actually cut a mirror.
And deal with the glass. So this is gonna hold it in place. All I'm gonna do to make it permanent is I like to use a little bit of masking tape just to give it a little extra touch. I can do that on all 3 pieces, then run a line of glue. When you're done, you take these off. These are just to hold it in place, like a clamp. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that would just set up, obviously. And
Yep.
if you wanted to cut your own, I think or the template up on our website, and you could cut that in your electronic cutter.
Or by hand.
Or by hand if you traced it.
Yep, and I've got one here already done.
Okay, so now there's
So-
still tape on it. Do you leave the tape on it even after it's glued?
You do. So for
Okay.
now, just leave everything on. Nobody's gonna see this. We need to figure out how to adhere our Kaleidoscope glass. Is it okay to
Okay.
call it glass?
Our kaleidoscope plastic glass,
So
fake glass.
I'm using toothpicks, little skewers.
Well, that's clever.
And all we have to do is run a line of glue right down the seam.
Okay, these are obviously longer than usual toothpicks.
It's 3 minutes.
Oh,
It's 3 minutes.
Okay, what should I do? I press obviously stop on here and then open the oven. You have a hot
Yeah,
mitt
yeah, I
here
have a
because
hot
obviously
mitt.
the shrink plastic is going to be very warm
Danger,
when you take
danger,
it out.
stand back.
Don't let me handle anything hot. So you're gonna take that out. Now, do you need to let it stand or anything like that, or is it ready to use as soon
It
as you...
is ready. What I do is take this
Oh,
top piece off.
tongs. Clever.
And I want to make sure this is perfectly flat, and it is. But if it has any curl to
Mm-hmm.
it, now's the chance. It's still warm, and we can flatten it.
Now, obviously, if you're going to shrink a lot of plastic, you want to make sure to use a dedicated. Oh, it looks
Look at
amazing. I
that.
saw the dance.
Isn't that
you
cool?
You were clearly
It's cool.
excited.
Well, you know what I like about it is it would be really hard, especially for me, to doodle so tiny.
Yeah.
So we get to doodle big and then use it super tiny. How cool
And
is
have that really fine line. And now, of course, it's a super thick piece of plastic that's really hardy.
So it's not going to be wibbly wobbly on the end of our Kaleidoscope. And you'll notice here, all I'm doing is adding my toothpicks. Now I want them to have a straight edge. Here's a tip. This is
Cut off the tip.
It's a pet toenail trimmer.
It's a pet toenail trimmer. And why are you using a pet toenail trimmer?
Because when it cuts round shapes, they stay round. It doesn't flatten them.
So I have a question. Could you have used like a skewer, which was already long, or is there a reason you're doing it in segments?
Because, well, this was the only size I had, and I thought it would torment you more if I did it in segments. Does
I just
that
want
count?
to make sure. Yes, that's a great answer.
The
great
longer
answer.
skewers are very thick, and I wanted one very thin.
Okay.
So while this sets up, and that'll dry very quickly, I actually have some pieces already shrunk right here.
Perfect.
And I need a hole that's exactly the size of that skewer.
Right,
so
now
I've
we
measured
could
it.
have cut it before, but you said there's a smart reason why we didn't.
Well, because I want to make sure it exactly fits my skewers, and the skewers are irregular, so it's better to measure your skewer, size your drill bit, and go from there.
And you would measure your skewer with a gauge guide,
have
which you
this little
have
guide.
right there, and you can place it in to see exactly what size bit you need to use to drill your
Exactly.
hole.
But if you want a precise size, this drills phenomenally well. We're through.
And obviously, because this is a functional item, meaning it's a mechanical item, you really need that fit to be there. If it were decorative, you wouldn't.
Absolutely. So we just drill a hole through both.
So it's interesting. It doesn't crack the plastic or anything like that. You don't have to use a special drill bit. It's just the regular bit that you would drill wood with.
Yeah, that's it. Look at that.
Super cool.
And if I sized it right, it should fit and it should spin.
Perfect.
So now, when you put these on, we need a spacer between them. Can you see them?
Yeah, so you just used a bead?
I just used some beads. Before we put that on, you could cover the whole thing. I've got a nice shiny metallic foil, because that covers all the sins.
It does. So then you would just sort of wrap it over there. It would hide your toothpick.
Well, you need to fold it over that peak, and so we need a score line. Otherwise, it'd just be really tough to get it over.
It would just
that
be really
center
messy,
peak.
Right?
You know, it just doesn't fold very well. But
So
once we
we're just gonna
score
it, which is just an easier way to create that fold.
and let's just see how we're doing here. See how that will cover all that up?
Ooh, I guess you'll never see the toothpicks under there.
And then we can go all the way around like that.
Okay, so now if we actually go ahead and score that part too, I assume.
Yep. And I usually kind of like get it started so I can see. In fact, it may not even need it. Look how well it wraps. Let's put on some double adhesive paper.
So now do you have to score the adhesive?
No, this is so thin that
That
it's
you'll
gonna
never
follow.
notice. So can I tell you a trick that I learned about putting these adhesive
ahead.
sheets on? May I have your bone folder there? So someone told me leave this on so that it's part way, so you're not dealing with something big and wonky. Then line it up with the edge. So now you know you're not stuck in the place where you still have the paper on, right?
Look at that.
Then you take this, and to not get air bubbles, you smooth it, and basically the adhesive, you don't even need the extra hand, it magically, shoots right at you,
Look at
comes
that.
right off, it's nicely adhered. You will never look at double-sided
that.
adhesive the same way again. So I'm just gonna get my fingernail under there, and sir, that is ready for you for the next step.
I thought you'd go ahead and wrap now.
I don't like to do all the work. I just like to do the fun parts.
Oh, come on. What's that little bit gonna do?
So you're just gonna wrap that around, and of course, if you wanted a bright orange kaleidoscope, if you wanted any color you could, but it is fun to have it also be in that shiny, I think. It makes it seem less like it's cardboard.
And you can try different things, like in this case, I think when I get home, I want to wrap the end with a metallic silver, just to give it like a bit of trim. So that's what my intent was here, is let's just wrap it.
So now to finish it, if we look just really quickly at this one, I can see that you've placed each disc with a spacer bead between it.
Just make sure that that bead will spin.
And for the very end, how do we finish it off?
We just add the last bead with a little drop of glue, and then trim the end with your toenail clip.
Awesome.
Your head clipper.
I love it. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
Brother International Corporation is the maker of the ScanNCut home and hobby cutting machine with a built-in scanner and is known for supplying innovative sewing and embroidery machines. ScanNCut.com